The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows on the peaceful streets of Maplewood Heights. Officer Ethan Blake, a kind but experienced police officer, was driving his car through the quiet neighborhood, listening to the soft hum of the engine. Everything seemed calm until he noticed a small boy running into the street, waving his arms. Ethan quickly stopped his car, his heart racing. The boy was no older than 10. His shirt was covered in blood, and his hands were shaking. Ethan immediately got out of the car and asked in a calm voice, "Hey, are you hurt?" The boy was gasping for breath, looking scared as he glanced at some houses nearby. "Officer, please help me," the boy cried. "They took my mommy and hurt my daddy. He's not moving." Ethan crouched down to be at eye level with the boy, gently putting his hands on his shoulders. "Slow down, son. Tell me what happened," he said. The boy, named Liam, told Ethan that some men wearing masks had taken his mommy and sister while they were outside. Liam's voice cracked with fear. "They hurt my daddy, and he's bleeding. I hid like my daddy told me, but when I came out, he wasn't moving anymore. They said they'd come back for me." Ethan's heart tightened. This wasn't just a missing child situation. Something worse had happened. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Liam Foster," the boy answered, still looking over his shoulder like he was afraid someone might be coming. "Are you hurt?" Ethan asked, checking for any signs of injury. Liam shook his head. "No, I just ran to find help." "Good job, Liam. You're very brave," Ethan said. "Now, I need you to stay calm. We're going to your house to help your dad." Ethan drove the car to Liam's house as fast as he could. Liam was gripping the seatbelt tightly, his knuckles white with fear. "What else can you remember about the men?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice steady. Liam told him that there were 3 men, and one of them had a deep voice. The man yelled at his mom to shut up and get in the van. Dad tried to fight them, but they hit him, Liam added. The van was black with dark windows. Ethan kept asking questions, trying to get as many details as possible, but Liam just stared ahead, lost in his thoughts about his dad. When they arrived at the house, everything seemed quiet, but the door was slightly open. "Stay here, Liam," Ethan told the boy. "I'll go inside and check." Liam nodded, still scared but trusting Ethan. Ethan carefully entered the house, making sure everything was safe. Inside, the living room was a mess. Furniture was turned over, and broken glass was everywhere. There were bloodstains leading to the stairs. Ethan called out, "Daniel, can you hear me?" He found Liam's dad, Daniel Cooper, lying on the floor at the bottom of the stairs. Daniel had a bad head wound, but Ethan found a pulse, which made him feel a little better. He quickly called for an ambulance. As the ambulance arrived, Ethan noticed something unusual, a piece of paper under a table. He carefully picked it up and read the note. It said, $500,000. No cops. 48 hours. Or you'll never see them again. Ethan felt a chill. This wasn't just a random attack. It was planned. Paramedics helped Daniel, and Ethan talked to the police officers who were arriving. He showed them the ransom note and told them about the black van. They all started to search for the van, hoping to find the people who did this. Ethan went back to Liam, who was waiting in the car. "It's going to be okay, Liam. We're going to find your mom and sister," he said, trying to sound reassuring. "But I need you to stay strong and keep helping us." Back at the police station, Ethan kept looking at the ransom note. The writing looked rushed, and he knew they needed to work fast. Liam was sitting nearby, wrapped in a blanket, still shaken up. Ethan gently asked Liam if he could remember anything else. Liam thought for a moment, then said, "One of the men said something about making up for lost time, like they were late. And another man was mad because it was taking too long." Ethan felt like they were getting closer to understanding the kidnappers. "Good job, Liam. That helps us a lot," he said. Then they got a tip from a gas station. One of the kidnappers had bought cigarettes and burner phones before the kidnapping. Ethan's team started working on tracking the van, using nearby cameras to follow its path to an industrial area. While they were gathering more information, Ethan spoke to Daniel Cooper, who had just woken up in the hospital. Daniel said he had a business partner named Cameron Wells who had tried to steal money from their company years ago. Daniel had threatened to report him, and Cameron disappeared. "If Cameron thought he could get revenge or money by kidnapping my family, I wouldn't put it past him," Daniel said. With this new lead, Ethan's team started to focus on Cameron Wells. They worked fast because the kidnappers had already given them a deadline. Meanwhile, Olivia and Chloe Moore, who were being held in a dark, cold basement, were trying to stay calm. The men who had taken them were arguing about what to do next. Olivia noticed that one of the men seemed nervous, and Chloe whispered, "They're scared." Olivia tried to talk to the nervous man, hoping he might help them. "You don't have to do this," she said. "You can walk away, and I won't tell anyone." But the man just glared at her and went back to the group. The man hesitated, his lips twitching like he wanted to speak but couldn't. Olivia, her voice full of worry, asked, "Will you really let us go if Daniel pays?" She sounded desperate. "We're not a threat to you. You don't need to keep us." He glanced at Damien, who was busy talking on the phone, and then looked back at Olivia. "Just don't talk to me," he muttered, turning away from her. Olivia's fear grew. Damien finished his call, looking serious. "We're changing plans," he said. "We'll move to the second spot after the drop. No point in staying here any longer." The stocky man frowned. "But what if the police find us before the drop?" he asked. "They won't," Damien said coldly. "Not unless one of you messes up." Chloe clung to her mom, her small voice shaking. "Mom, what's going to happen to us?" Olivia swallowed hard, trying to sound brave. "We're going to be okay, Chloe. Just stay quiet and listen to me, okay?" The air in the Moore house felt heavy and full of worry. Daniel Cooper sat at the dining table, his head in his hands, while Liam held onto his father's arm, watching with big, tear-filled eyes. The room was quiet except for the sound of police radios, with officers moving in and out to find Olivia and Chloe. Daniel's phone buzzed, breaking the silence. He froze, staring at it like it was something dangerous. "Answer it," Ethan said, standing nearby. His voice was calm but firm. Daniel picked up the phone, his hands shaking. "Hello," he said. Damien's cold voice came through. "Here's how this works. You bring $500,000 to Eastside Industrial Park by the old loading docks at midnight. Come alone. If I even think there's a cop nearby, you'll never see your wife and daughter again. Got it?" Daniel's voice cracked. "I need more time." "No more talking," Damien interrupted. "You have your instructions. Don't mess this up." The line went dead, and Daniel slumped forward, gripping his hair. Ethan stepped closer. "We'll watch the drop and make sure your family is safe, but you need to keep it together. Don't lose it now." Daniel nodded weakly, but an hour later, another message came through. $750,000. New deadline. Noon tomorrow. No excuses. The extra demand hit Daniel hard. He slammed his fist on the table, knocking over a coffee mug. "This is impossible," he shouted, his voice breaking. "How am I supposed to get that much money?" Liam flinched at his father's shout, tears running down his face. "Are Mommy and Chloe coming back?" Daniel hugged Liam tightly, feeling guilty. "I'm sorry, buddy. I'm just so scared." Ethan stepped in. "I know this feels like too much, Daniel, but you're not alone. We're getting closer to them. They're making mistakes because they're desperate." Daniel looked up, his eyes red and swollen. "What if it's not enough? What if they—" He couldn't finish the thought. "It will be enough," Ethan said firmly. "But you need to stay strong for Liam and for Olivia and Chloe." Ethan looked at the map with his team. "The second message gives us a clue about where they're hiding. We traced the phone to Eastside Industrial Park. It's near where we saw the black van earlier. That's our best lead." His colleague, Luke Ramirez, leaned in. "Why not just raid the place now? We know where they are." "We can't risk it," Ethan replied. "If they think we're coming, they could move Olivia and Chloe again." Meanwhile, Daniel was desperately trying to get the ransom money. He called people and sold things, but he couldn't gather enough in time. "I don't know what else to do," Daniel said, pacing the living room. "Even if I sell everything, I still won't have $750,000 by tomorrow." Liam, sitting quietly on the couch, suddenly spoke up. "What about Uncle Jonathan Cooper? He has a lot of money, right?" Daniel thought for a moment. His brother Jonathan Cooper was rich, but not very generous. Still, he didn't have a choice. Daniel called him, and their conversation was quick and tense. Jonathan Cooper agreed to help, but he wasn't happy about it. "This better not be a scam," he said before hanging up. Daniel got part of the money, but it wasn't enough. He continued trying to gather more, while Ethan received an update from the surveillance team. They're using the Eastside Industrial Park as a base. If we can get in without tipping them off, we can find Olivia and Chloe, Ethan said. The team planned to gather information quietly and only act if they were sure Olivia and Chloe were there. Daniel, still scrambling to get the rest of the ransom, felt hopeless. What if they're not there? He asked Ethan, his face full of fear. What if you make things worse? Ethan placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. This is what we do. We're trained for this. Trust me. Liam tugged on Ethan's sleeve. You'll bring them back, right? You have to promise. Ethan crouched down to look Liam in the eyes. I promise I'll do everything I can. The police convoy moved through the city quietly, lights off to stay hidden. Ethan stayed silent, focusing on the task ahead. The stakes were higher than ever, and a single mistake could make everything worse. As they reached the East Side Industrial Park, the team spread out, taking positions around the area. Ethan's radio crackled with updates. Visual on the black van, Luke Ramirez reported. It's parked behind the building. It's definitely them. Ethan's heart raced. The van confirmed they were on the right track, but the job wasn't over yet. The air was tense as the SWAT team took their places around the warehouse. Inside the warehouse, Ethan and his team moved quietly, checking every corner. They found evidence that the kidnappers had been there recently, including cut ropes and footprints. They left in a hurry, Ethan said. Let's find their mistake. The forensic team quickly arrived, taking measurements of tire tracks that led out of the warehouse. They split up, Ethan said, thinking quickly. They're trying to make it harder for us to find them. A technician found an empty gas can, confirming that the kidnappers were planning to stay on the run. As Ethan and the team continued searching, Daniel received another message from the kidnappers. We warned you. No cops. Daniel slammed his phone down in frustration. How am I supposed to get the money if they keep changing the rules? Liam, sitting silently, held on to Daniel's arm. Ethan crouched next to Daniel. They're not playing a game. They're trying to control you, but we're following their trail. We'll find them. The team found a new clue, a crumpled paper with directions to Dock 177. Ethan's heart raced as he realized this might be the key. He called for a team to notify the Port Authority and to start a sweep of the area. At midnight, the police arrived at the port. The area was dark and quiet, with abandoned buildings and old warehouses. The team spread out, ready to search. They found a security camera that had recorded the black van pulling into Dock 17 earlier. The video confirmed their worst fear. Two people, Olivia and Chloe, were dragged out of the van and into an old boathouse. Ethan and his team approached the boathouse quietly. They spread out around the area to cover all exits. Stay sharp, Ethan told them. No mistakes. We have to bring them back. The boathouse was old and falling apart, with windows that were hard to see through. But Ethan and his team had the element of surprise on their side. They moved in carefully, their footsteps silent. The team stayed hidden, watching for any movement inside. Ethan spoke into his radio. No one leaves without us knowing. They could hear faint voices coming from inside the boathouse, but they had to stay quiet and patient, waiting for the right moment to make their move. Ethan waved for his team to stop and listen. The boathouse was very dim, with only a flickering light from a bulb hanging above. Olivia and Chloe were tied to chairs in the corner, their wrists sore from the ropes. Chloe looked pale and scared, her eyes moving around nervously, while Olivia, though tired, tried to stay calm and whispered comforting words to her daughter. Damien, the leader, walked back and forth angrily. His boots made loud sounds as he stomped on the concrete floor. He looked very upset, his sharp face twisted in frustration. They're stalling, Damien growled. We gave them a new deadline. If they want their family back, the money should be here by now. One of his helpers, a stocky man, stood by a table with his arms crossed. You made the price too high and rushed them, he said. Damien glared at him. Don't question me, he growled. I know what I'm doing. Then, a man with a limp spoke quietly. What if we take a little money now and let them go? We could cut our losses. Damien turned sharply toward him, his face full of anger. Are you kidding? We've come this far, and you want to quit? You're either stupid or scared. The man flinched but still tried to talk. Look around, Damien. The longer we stay, the more we risk. Do you think Daniel doesn't have the police looking for us already? Outside, Ethan and his team moved quietly and quickly. Some of them were making sure nobody could escape, while others were getting ready to go inside. Ethan was at the front. His heart was beating fast as they got closer to the boathouse. Through a night vision scope, one officer checked inside. "I can see 2 hostages. No immediate danger near them," he whispered. Ethan spoke calmly through his radio. "Hold your positions. Wait for my signal." From where they were, they could hear loud voices inside, but they couldn't understand the words. Ethan thought carefully about what to do. He knew that if Damien got too angry or scared, it could put Olivia and Chloe in even more danger. Inside, Olivia was watching everything carefully. She saw how the man with the limp avoided looking at her or Chloe, and she thought maybe he wasn't as sure about what they were doing. "Please," she said softly, her voice cutting through the tension. The men turned to look at her. "You don't have to do this," Olivia said. "Let us go, and I promise Daniel will do whatever he can to make things right. Nobody has to get hurt." Damien laughed at her. "You think I'm stupid enough to trust you? I've been tricked before. I'm not making that mistake again." Olivia didn't show any fear. She stayed calm and said, "Do you think this will end well for you? If you keep us here, you're running out of time. The money you think you'll get won't be worth what happens next." Damien grabbed a chair and dragged it toward her. He sat in front of her, leaning in close. "You think Daniel is going to save you?" he asked, his voice full of hate. "He's too weak. You're here because of him." Olivia didn't flinch. She stared at him. "Daniel will come through," she said firmly. "And when he does, you'll regret doing this." Damien smiled cruelly. "I'm counting on Daniel. But when he realizes he's out of options, I'll show him what happens when you cross me." The man with the limp looked uncomfortable. He raised his hand to his pocket and said, "Damien, enough. This isn't helping anything." Damien shot him an angry look. "You don't give the orders here," he snapped. "Just do your job and shut up." Chloe cried softly, which made Damien look at her. "What's wrong, kid?" "Scared," he sneered. Olivia leaned forward. "Leave her alone," she said firmly. "Your problem is with us, not her." Damien laughed without humor. "You don't make the rules here," he said. Outside, Ethan and his team were ready. They had surrounded the boathouse, and one officer looked through the window with special equipment. "We can hear them inside, but no new movement," the officer reported. Ethan was thinking carefully. If Damien heard anything, he could make a mistake and hurt Olivia or Chloe. Ethan spoke into his radio. "Hold steady. Wait for my signal." Inside, Olivia was still watching the men. She knew that the man with the limp was the most likely person to help. He looked scared, like he didn't want to be part of this anymore. Suddenly, Olivia saw her chance. The man with the limp was standing a little closer to her. She quickly elbowed him in the side with all her strength. The man staggered and bumped into Damien, making him lose his balance for a moment. That was when Ethan shouted, "Go!" The SWAT team rushed in, and in seconds, they had tackled Damien and the man with the limp. Another kidnapper tried to run, but was caught. Ethan rushed to Olivia and Chloe. He quickly cut the ropes that were tying them to the chairs. Chloe jumped in her mother's arms and cried, and Olivia hugged her tightly, wincing from the pain of the cut on her neck. "It's over now," Olivia whispered to Chloe, trying to comfort her. Ethan spoke to both of them. "You're going to be okay. The paramedics are on their way." As the police looked around, they found more evidence, a locked case with papers inside. These papers showed that Damien was involved in an even bigger crime. They proved that he was working with other criminals in a large operation. Ethan and his team were excited because they now had enough information to catch even bigger criminals. The sound of sirens filled the air. More police and paramedics arrived, and Daniel Cooper's car pulled up. Daniel rushed out, and Liam ran toward Olivia as fast as he could. "Mommy!" Liam cried, jumping into her arms. Olivia hugged him tightly, tears in her eyes. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here," she said. Daniel came over and gently touched Olivia's cheek. "I thought I lost you," he said, his voice shaking. "We're okay," Olivia said. Thanks to them, Ethan stepped back, watching the family. The paramedics helped Olivia and Chloe, and Ethan felt relieved. He knew they were safe now. "Your family is safe, but we found something big," Ethan told Daniel. Damien wasn't just working on his own. He was part of a bigger criminal network. "We'll keep investigating, but for now, your family is safe." Daniel nodded, thankful. "Thank you," he said softly. Back at the police station, Damien was sitting in a room, trying to look tough. He didn't want to talk to the police, but Detective Luke Ramirez wasn't giving up. "You're in big trouble, Damien," he said. "We have a lot of proof." Damien didn't respond. He still thought he could get away with it. In the next room, the man with the limp was sitting nervously. Ethan spoke to him. "We know you didn't start this, but you can help us. If you tell us what you know, you might get a lighter punishment." The man hesitated. "It's bigger than us," he said quietly. "Cameron Wells is the one who started this." Ethan's eyes widened when he heard the name. Cameron Wells was the man who used to work with Daniel Cooper. The man nodded. "He's been paying for jobs like this. He chooses people he has problems with or things he can get money from." Ethan and Luke Ramirez went back to their team, looking through all the new information. The papers they found showed that Cameron Wells had been helping fund these crimes for months. He had been using his money to control others. Ethan was serious. This wasn't just about money. It was revenge. One of the officers ran in with new news. "We found Cameron. He's about to leave the state." Ethan made a decision. "We're not letting him get away." Later that night, Ethan and his team were at the airfield. They surrounded the area, ready to stop Cameron. Cameron's car pulled up to a small jet, and he looked calm like nothing was wrong. "Move in," Ethan ordered. The team rushed in. "Cameron Wells, you're under arrest," Ethan shouted. Cameron raised his hands, acting surprised. "This is a mistake," he yelled. Ethan showed him the evidence. "We have all the proof we need." Cameron was handcuffed and put into a police car. As he was taken away, he shouted, "You'll regret this." Back at the police station, Olivia and Chloe were sitting in a quiet room. Chloe was holding a stuffed animal, her hands shaking. Olivia gently stroked her hair. "You were both so brave," Ethan told them. "Everything you said will help us catch the others." Olivia took a deep breath and told them about what happened in the boathouse. She said Damien was in charge, but the man with the limp seemed unsure. Chloe spoke up. "They said Daddy couldn't stop them, and Damien said they'd hurt Mommy if the money didn't come fast enough." Ethan nodded. "You've helped us more than you know. We'll make sure no one else gets hurt." News about Cameron's arrest spread quickly. For years, he had been seen as a successful businessman, but now everyone knew the truth about him. Daniel spoke to reporters outside his home. "What happened to my family was horrible, but it showed that Cameron Wells was using his power to hurt people. I won't stop until he's held accountable." Olivia watched Daniel's statement on the news, and she felt even more determined. "We'll testify," she said softly to Chloe. "We'll make sure they never hurt anyone again." With Cameron in jail and Damien's gang taken down, the police worked hard to build a strong case. The evidence was clear. Financial records, Damien's briefcase, and testimonies from Olivia, Chloe, and even the limping man. Ethan stood in the police conference room, talking to his team. "We've done the hard part, getting them off the streets. Now, we make sure they stay there. This case has to be perfect." Luke Ramirez nodded, saying, "The DA district attorney is confident with everything we've got. It'll be hard for Blake or Damien to get away with this." Ethan smiled for a moment. They had uncovered a big criminal operation, and justice was close. In the courtroom, there was a quiet buzz. People, journalists, and community members filled the seats, all waiting for the trial of Damien, his accomplice, and Cameron Wells. The Moore family, Daniel, Olivia, Chloe, and Liam, sat together, showing their bravery. Daniel held Olivia's hand tightly, and Liam sat beside them, holding his mother's hand. Though Liam didn't have to testify, he wanted to be there every day. His black eye had healed, but the sadness in his heart was still there. He leaned on Olivia for comfort. Olivia was the first to speak in court. She looked calm, but her voice was full of emotion as she told the story of what happened during the abduction. "I didn't know if we would make it out alive," Olivia said, her voice shaking, "but I knew I had to stay strong for my daughter." When Chloe spoke, it became even harder for the people in the courtroom. The brave teenage girl told everyone about the kidnapping. "I thought he was going to hurt her," Chloe said quietly, tears on her cheeks. "I just wanted us to go home." Ethan Blake, the police officer, gave his testimony. He explained everything about the investigation, the ransom, and the rescue. Cameron Wells' lawyer tried to make Ethan look bad, but Ethan stayed calm. He answered every question clearly. Cameron Wells's lawyer asked, "Officer Carter, isn't it true that you used unverified information to find out my client was involved?" Ethan answered, "Every lead we followed was backed by evidence, financial records, testimonies, and video footage. There's no doubt about Mr. Blake's role. The prosecution, the people working to prove Blake's guilt, showed even more evidence. Documents proving that Cameron was part of Damien's gang, a witness who said Blake ordered the kidnapping, and videos showing Blake's involvement. The defense tried to argue, but they couldn't prove Cameron was innocent. The evidence was too strong. The prosecutor said in her closing argument, this wasn't just a crime of anger. It was planned, done for money and revenge. Cameron Wells used his money and power to destroy lives. But today, justice will win." After a few days of testimony, the jury came back with their decision. They found Cameron Wells guilty of many crimes, including kidnapping, extortion, and racketeering. The judge gave him 20 years in prison. His good name was gone. Damien and the other kidnappers also got long sentences. Damien was sentenced to 15 years, and the others received 10 years each. Cameron didn't show much emotion, but he slumped in his chair, defeated. In the gallery, Daniel sighed with relief, his eyes full of tears. Olivia put her arm around Chloe, who leaned against her mother. Liam looked at Ethan with a small, thankful smile. The Moore family moved to a new home in a different neighborhood to escape the bad memories of the kidnapping. The new house was smaller, but it felt warm and fresh. Olivia and Chloe started seeing a counselor to help them heal, and they began to feel stronger. Daniel worked hard to rebuild his business, promising to protect his family. Liam, though still healing, joined a soccer team and made friends. His fear was gone, and he started to feel more confident. Weeks went by, and Ethan went back to his regular police work. But the Moore case stayed with him, reminding him that life can change in an instant and how important it is to be kind and watchful. One sunny morning, as Ethan drove through the Moore's new neighborhood, he saw Liam sitting on the porch. Liam's black eye had healed, and he was smiling confidently. Liam waved at Ethan, and Ethan waved back, feeling proud. Ethan's radio crackled, calling him to another job, but as he drove away, he looked in the rearview mirror and saw Liam's waving hand getting smaller. Sometimes, Ethan thought that the best Damianis weren't medals or awards, but in the quiet, unspoken moments that showed how lives could change for the better. If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more content like it, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on all our latest, inspiring and heartwarming stories and have the opportunity to engage with our growing community. Additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to sharing more captivating narratives with you.